Welcome to A Pair of Bookends, the book club you can carry anywhere. I'm your host, Hannah MacDonald, and I'll be bookending the conversation with some of the most exciting voices from the bookish world. On today's episode, I'm thrilled to be joined by Heather Darwent to discuss her latest novel, A Sharp Scratch, which is out now and published by Penguin Viking in the UK. Heather Darwent is a writer based near Edinburgh. Originally from Yorkshire, Heather moved to Scotland to study an MA at the University of Edinburgh. She's worked in advertising and for a technology startup company, and in between all of this has somehow found the time to write 2 novels. Her debut, The Things We Do to Our Friends, was published in 2023 and became an instant Sunday Times top 10 bestseller. And here to chat about her latest book, A Sharp Scratch, welcome Heather to A Pair of Bookends.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Thank you for coming on. I'm so excited to chat to you about this book. But before we dive into your book, I do like to open by asking what you're currently reading.
Yeah, of course. So I'm actually reading a book called The Compound by...
This is on my list.
Oh my
I've got to read
goodness,
this for next week.
Yeah, I've got a proof because I'm actually interviewing the author next week or the week after next. And obviously I don't want to give any spoilers, but it's brilliant. So when I saw the description, I was like, oh, it's like a Love Island. And I kind of, there's quite a lot of like thrillers in that Love Island space, but it's not really a thriller. It's like a little bit more literary, kind of satire. And yeah, it's so good and just so unexpected. So I'm sure you'll really enjoy it. I think it's brilliant.
Oh, you've made me really excited for that.
One of my top reads of the year so far.
Wow, high praise. I'm really excited for that. I'm interviewing her next week, I believe.
Oh, amazing.
So
it's really good. And like it's one of those things where when I started reading it, I was like really impressed just because there's like a really big cast of characters, because obviously it's like a Love Island setup. And I was like, oh, am I going to be able to follow these characters? But she kind of really nails it and does it like really effortlessly, which I'm always like, that is good writing. I don't know how you're doing this, but I'm not getting mixed up at all between the characters. And it's also got a really good cover. So
it does actually, yes.
It's a really cool cover. Right.
Yeah. I'm so excited. I do want to ask you actually about your reading tastes. Because both of your books are kind of like dark thrillers. Would you say that's also what you're drawn to in terms of reading as well as writing? Or do you read quite broadly? Do you read totally outside of that genre? Yeah, where do your reading tastes sit?
So I read loads of different stuff. One thing I read really fast. My husband's always like, you're skipping. I'm like, probably am, but I'm a big rereader. So,
really?
Which is like a weird thing. So yeah, so I will read stuff quite fast, and then if I enjoy it, I'll reread it. But I tend to read a lot. I read a lot of like American like police procedural. That's like I hate guilty pleasure when it comes to reading, but like that is my guilty pleasure.
I love that.
And then I really like kind of a dystopian. I'd say The Compound's kind of dystopia. So Agostina Bastilica, who wrote Tender as the Flesh. And
have you read her new one?
Yes, The Unworthy.
It's so
good. Yeah. So I really love all that kind of like weird dystopian stuff. Any kind of like literary thriller I love. But yeah, I read quite widely. I really like American literature, so I read quite a lot of that. But yeah, the only thing that I don't read that much of is kind of like love, like when it's like just like a love story is the focus.
Yeah, fair.
Just because I found that it's like not 100% my cup of tea. So like the odd one I'll do, but that's the only genre. And I never say never, I will read like a love story, but I'm more drawn to thrillers or like thriller adjacent.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I say that your books are thrillers to kind of give them labels are weird anyway.
They are, yeah, they're really weird.
Because yes, I guess it is a thriller and it has the sort of pace and the tension of a thriller, but it's like, I don't know, it also feels quite literary. It has elements where you kind of don't know where the story's going, you know what I mean? Like it has that sort of dystopian feel, like, what is this house? What does it mean?
Yeah.
We should probably let the listeners know what a Sharp Scratch is about before we delve in. So would you like to tell us?
Yeah, of course. So A Sharp Scratch is a book that is basically set around this strange wellness center, I guess I'll call it. And a young woman called Betsy is suffering with her sleep. and she takes the founder of this institute up on the invitation to go and visit this wellness institute called Khan. And there's the promise that they'll heal her and it's free. So she goes to this kind of remote place in Scotland. And yeah, because it's a thriller, she finds out that all is not as it seems.
Yes.
And yeah, I don't want to give any spoilers.
No. I think you've
But
done really well there, actually, because
it's
I was.
so hard.
It's really hard. It's so. I was saying to my boyfriend last night, it's going to be really hard to talk about this book because I feel like anything has the potential for a spoiler.
Yeah.
So I'm going off. I'm going off what you've given me.
Yeah. And
I think we can definitely work with this. But you might need to
totally.
be like, Hannah, stop. Wait.
And it's like it comes back to what you said about like what do I read? Like one of the big like I love a twist.
Yes.
So like I'm like a twist obsessive. So when someone does like a good twist, I'm
Mhm.
like absolutely in heaven. So whatever, and I think twists can come in any genre, can't they? You know, it doesn't have
Yes.
to be a thriller to have like a really cool twist. So that's I guess like my if I see that something it's hard because if you read something's got a big twist, then you're kind of
Hmm.
waiting for it.
Yeah. Fair. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm a twist enthusiast. I hope the twists never. I
Have
mean, I
you
don't think they'll
read
ever die off.
Finding Grace by Loretta Rothschild?
No, I've not.
Okay,
Got a really good twist.
it's coming out very
Oh, it's not out
soon
yet. Okay,
and
good to
it's a
know.
debut and
Yeah.
it is just really, really good. It's got one of the best
Oh,
openings I've ever read in a book.
amazing.
Yeah, I'm just going off
Okay.
what you're saying, but I would say
Okay.
give that a
Finding
try for
Grace, did you
sure.
say?
Finding Grace, yeah,
Okay, good.
it's
Put it on my
great.
list. Great. I
Yes.
always love a recommendation. So
Oh,
good.
I've got plenty.
Ah,
I want to talk about your protagonist, Betsy. She is this sort of, she's kind of unreliable narrator.
mm,
She's a very troubled character. She's obviously got these sleep issues, but there's much more to it than just kind of sleep issues. You know, she's
yeah.
very layered. What inspired her character?
Yeah, so I mean, I had a lot of sleep issues, and then when I was editing the book, I had really bad insomnia, and so that was a bit of a killer because I was writing about insomnia.
Oh God.
Although it's more complicated than insomnia, but it was very strange.
Yeah.
I hope that it's kind of maybe given the book some more kind of authenticity, just because it's something that
Yeah.
I've suffered with. That was the kind of initial thought, and I just read a few really good books about sleep as well. And I always love like a memoir about sleep, about insomnia. There's like quite a few of them. So that's kind of it. That was kind of her inspiration for her. And then she just kind of developed. Like I never really, I'm not a plotter, so I kind of write into the characters. I always write first person, and I kind of just like write into it and see where it goes, which is a really, really time-consuming way of doing it. And not a way I'd recommend to anyone necessarily, but I've realized that I can't change how I write, and I'm never going to be like a super like structured person in terms of who the characters are. I have to just like play with it and see who they are.
That's great. I
So
think everybody's different. And if that's
yeah,
the
they
way you
are.
write, you know, and that's the
It's
way,
yeah,
you know, the creativity flows out of you, then stick with that. Absolutely.
yeah. It was
Keep the
actually
books coming.
it was actually funny with Betsy because right at by the copy editing stage, I'd actually become really good friends with someone called Betsy, and I had to say like, by the way. I see her all the time, and I had to say the character in my next book is called Betsy, but she's not based on you, and I wrote her before I knew you. So that was just a kind of funny conversation because
I love
I would
that.
never call a character after someone I knew.
Risk, isn't it?
Yeah, like there's characters with names of like people I've known in the past and stuff, but like as in like like my brother-in-law, I wouldn't use like, super close friends or
Yeah.
anything. So that was kind of funny.
But I mean, she is. I did feel that she was an unreliable narrator, and that's
Mm,
obviously a really popular. I think it's become quite a popular trope in, maybe not a trope, but it's become a popular thing in literary fiction, I think.
yeah, yeah.
To have an unreliable female character or female narrator. Is that something that you're drawn to? Is that something you're thinking about, or is it's just naturally something that came out on the page?
Yeah, so I'm not going to if it's controversial. I kind of think all narrators are unreliable in a sense, and it's really just like how far you lean into it. I mean,
Okay.
everyone tells their story, and everyone is unreliable. It's when you're writing in first person, of course you're unreliable. It's your sense, and I love it when you're writing in first person, and the reader gets a sense of another character's reaction. They just think, oh, am I being told the whole story? If another character's responding to the protagonist in that way, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is, I mean, you're completely right. It's definitely like very popular in the genre. And I
Yeah.
mean, I think we've still like got Gone Girl to thank for that. I mean, it just is like Gone Girl is the ultimate kind of, it just paved the way. It still is paving the way, even though it must be like 20 years old now, that book.
Yeah.
But I think it just changed the way we feel about and also about unlikable narrators as well, because
Yeah.
often unreliable narrators can be, I think, are unlikable just
Hmm.
because we are like confused by them. They don't have a good sense of what's going on often. And so, yeah, for me, I like really enjoy playing with unreliability, but also like unlikable because my character's always criticized for being unlikable. So, so,
Really?
oh yeah, yeah. I just can't write a likable character. And
That's
then
so
it's so
interesting.
funny, just because people are like, oh, and Harry, the husband in the book, like he's so terrible. And I'm like, yeah, he kind of is, but I don't know. I guess I don't see them as terrible, which is I don't know what that says about me.
No, fair. That's
But
interesting because I did want to ask about Harry because I
mm,
found him really infuriating. And
yeah, yeah,
I thought you were saying that people really didn't like Betsy, and I think, she's just a complicated person and she's
yeah,
struggling. And
yeah,
that's obviously difficult to read in terms of
yeah,
if you understand those types of struggles.
yeah, yeah.
But I wouldn't say she's unlikable in any way.
Really? Oh,
Um,
interesting.
yeah,
That's
I
good
did.
to
I
hear.
mean, I think some of her decisions were
Yeah,
irritating, but
yeah.
I wouldn't
She's
say
irritating.
overall she wasn't unlikable. But Harry, on the
Yeah,
other hand,
you thought it was
I
pretty
was ready to
unlikable.
fight
Yeah,
Harry. What
yeah.
was it like writing him?
But then again, we're seeing it through her lens. So, he is unlikable, but we're completely seeing Harry through Betsy's eyes.
This is
So
true. Yeah.
I found him quite enjoyable to like. Again, I think unlikable characters are easier writing a likable character for me is so hard because it's so subjective, whereas unlikable characters a bit more there's a lot of characteristics you can draw on where people are going to be like, yeah, that's the kind of the villain. So he was quite fun to write, I mean, it was interesting writing him, and I think it definitely from the book I'm writing now, I'm kind of working on a third novel, like it made me more interested in kind of male female dynamics and kind of relationships. So yeah, it was fun. I mean, he's not in it loads, but yeah, I enjoyed it.
That's really funny because I mean I suppose as the writer you have a
Mm,
different experience to the reader, so you
yeah.
can kind of lean into the really horrible aspects of a character and just
Yeah,
be
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of okay with it because
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you're fleshing them out, aren't you? And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but there's the particular scene that I'm thinking of is their
Mm.
wedding day,
Oh yeah, yeah. The
and
first scene of the book, yeah.
yeah, it is. And I think they also return to it later, don't they, as well? And
Yeah.
she's thinking about it in terms of how piecing together like her memory of it. But that scene is really difficult to read because
Yeah.
obviously somebody's wedding day is supposed to be like the happiest day of their life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it just doesn't seem like a very happy day for them.
Yeah. I mean, I just really wanted it was so funny with that one. I just like came to that without even having a sense of the characters or anything. I just really wanted to write a wedding day scene that isn't in the context of like a romance novel, that's very much in the context of a thriller novel, because I don't think they exist that much. Like I was
No.
trying to think of like, and then obviously I always find it really interesting events that have this huge expectation on them. So obviously a wedding has this huge amount of expectation
Hmm.
on it. And what would happen if that was like, if it does go wrong and everything is slightly off, So I really enjoyed writing that scene. That was the first scene I wrote, and it kind of was the first scene. It stayed in the book as the kind of first scene, which is unusual.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed it. I think sometimes you just get this idea of what you want to write. You're like, I
Yeah.
want to write a wedding scene, and then you're like, and then it just happens, and yeah, it very much came to me before the characters and before they were. I just knew that that was what I wanted to write.
I think you're so right that I don't think I've read a wedding scene that sort of exists outside of a kind of romance or literary kind of
Mm,
love story sort of situation.
yeah.
And I think, reading, I don't know if I have read a wedding scene where it's not been like a good thing. It's been like
Yeah.
a
The only one I can think of, well, there definitely are lots of them. I don't want to say that there aren't, but the one that I'm thinking of is there's the Lucy Foley book that's like the wedding, the
Oh,
very
I haven't
fancy
read that.
wedding off the coast of Ireland. Again, it's an interesting one. I think weddings in the thriller genre
Yeah.
often put on like the hen party, like locked
Yeah.
room hen party or stag party, because that's quite a good kind of set up for a locked room
Yeah.
kind of device. And then she kind of pulls on this remote island as the for the locked room device for a thriller of I can't actually remember who dies in it. But it's good. I remember it being
It's a
good.
spoiler.
I remember it being like really beautifully atmospheric, like a moneyed, like very exclusive island off the coast of Ireland, and it was great. So yeah, maybe that inspired me. Although now I'm literally just thinking of it again, thinking, oh, I really enjoyed that.
I love that. I want to ask you actually, because I just mentioned about her wedding day and
Yeah,
how it does come back to her, but memory is such a big thing in the book. And
yeah.
how she sort of perceives memory and the kind of loosening of it and it coming to her in these like fragments and
Mm,
scraps and the blurred lines of kind of what's real and what's not.
yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about exploring memory in the book and what that might represent with these characters?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think for me, it's funny, isn't it? Like you start writing, and then I start writing, and then I realize how much it is I have of the characters in their past that I want to draw in, and just like from a technical point of view, it is like I think it's just like technically always challenging
Yeah,
because often you're playing with like different timelines, and I always find myself like to be totally honest, I always find myself a bit wrapped up in knots trying to like untangle it by the end because I'm like there's so many different things that happen in different times and
yeah,
I don't usually work I never work on the kind of like then now I usually just try and like thread it in
yeah,
because that's for me is like I enjoy reading those kind of books. So an example, it's not in the thriller genre, but Year of Rest and Relaxation.
yeah,
I think she threads the past in really nicely. And obviously that's kind of a more literary novel, but I really love that book. So yeah, I often come at it and think, right, I'm just going to write in a linear fashion. And then I end up kind of the memories just kind of start kind of surfacing to build the character up. And it, yeah, as I said, I find it technically challenging because you're writing something that's a thriller, so you want to keep the pace up. So in a sense, so it's always something that I do that I like I really enjoy as part of the process, but I do find it hard.
yeah.
So just to be totally honest about the kind of the process, it's really tricky to do.
But what
And
does
yeah,
your writing, I don't know, like process or like space look like? Because if you're playing with memory and how much you're revealing at certain
yeah,
parts in the
yeah.
story, are you just putting that out onto the page, or are you having to keep kind of
No.
like stuff? You're not keeping anything
I
around
don't have
you.
anything around me. I don't know. I've got these like I guess I've just like got these like this mess of post-it notes and stuff. I do have like a mess of things and I do use Scrivener a bit, but I tend to just like I'll do like over like 9, 10 drafts of a book
Wow.
and that's like still first draft for me. So I like write and write and write and write into it. I was talking on was it another podcast or something the other day about a story I heard. I can't remember the author, but she basically says she writes an entire first draft and then deletes it and then writes and then like starts
You're
again.
kidding. That's
Yeah,
made
with
me
the
want
knowledge,
to.
I know, with the knowledge that like if things are good enough, they'll stick. And
Yes.
that like really stuck with me because I was like, that's such an interesting way of looking at it. And
Yeah.
yeah, I just rewrite and rewrite and rewrite. And that's how I tend to kind of get there with like where things go, like instinct. It's quite intuitive with like where things will go because I don't like work to any kind of oh I should go in the past now I should go in the future now but often in I think in the thriller genre it's a way of just building because there is an expectation that you're going to have quite a lot of twists which I
Yeah.
love but it's quite you kind of get a feel for when you need something to the reader to be like oh to kind of jump up and be like oh it's not what I thought so you kind of instinctively are looking for ways to build those twists in. And I often
Yeah.
find myself putting things in and I don't know what I'm going to do with them later. So I'm like, right. So for example, in this book, I'm like, right, there's gonna be fish at the beginning in a moat. That's not a spoiler, but I'm putting that in and not knowing what I'm gonna do with it, but I know I'm gonna do something with it. If that
Yeah.
makes sense. So I'm
No, that does
like
make
building the
sense.
twists in without knowing what they're gonna be. And I've heard other writers do that and I'm like, oh yeah, I do that as well. And for me, that's the only way I can do it. I can't like sit down and be like, right, I have to just put in my own little things that then I come back to. It's also quite a fun way of writing
Yeah.
because the problem is if it's not fun, you kind of end up just being like just
Yeah.
like, you just I for me it's not fun following a kind of pre-laid chapter plan. I have to
Yeah.
just kind of
That makes
play with it a bit.
sense.
So
I
yeah.
do think it is a really pacey read, though. I flew
Oh
through it,
really? Oh,
and
thank
yeah,
you.
and I think it's become quite apparent that there is a lot of mystery involved, and you are guessing throughout of what is this place, what is going on with this character,
Yeah.
what is her relationship with her husband, how is that gonna
Hmm.
kind of end up, and the sort of unraveling of the story is just so exciting. And I wanted to ask what you think is important when writing a book like this in terms of keeping the readers on their toes.
Oh, interesting. Good question. I mean, if I knew, because that's like the secret sauce that everyone's trying to get to. For
Well,
me,
you're
I think
doing it. You're doing
well, I think
it.
everyone does it differently, don't they? And I think everyone pulls on different like strengths and different
Yeah,
levers and also what they enjoy writing. For me, I just like love setting.
yeah,
So like I did like regret it. I was like, I'm gonna write kind of it's not a locked room mystery, but it is in a sense because it's like set in something that is like, a kind of
yeah,
locked institute. And then as soon as I started doing it, I was like, God, this is really hard. Like I can see it's really challenging to write something like in this set in a contemporary time frame where people can't leave.
yeah,
It's like it's so tough. But I am always drawn to setting and like, meals and food and the weather. And like, sometimes it's hard. You can go over too far with that. But for me, that's like what I end up being drawn to is like, is the setting. So that's like definitely a big part of the appeal for me of like
yeah,
writing like weird thrillers. But then I think other people do it in different ways. And, I love a book that like it has like loads of really like pacey dialogue, but
yeah.
for me, yeah, setting is the thing that I like love writing. And I love like other books as well that have like really atmospheric settings. So one of some of my favorite books are Tana French books set in Dublin. And I just like love how she does setting. It's like just so amazing. Like each of those books has like such an interesting setting.
I've heard really
Um
good things about Tana French, but I've actually
they're
not
so
read her
good.
work.
She's brilliant. And I think she like really does like I love the balance she has of like those books are essentially like police procedural, I guess. But they like have a really like kind of lyrical way that she
Hmm.
writes. So I'm a massive fan. She's one of my favorite authors.
I love that. I do want to ask you about setting because I do
Yeah.
think this place that they go to is such a strange
Yeah.
place, and there are these sort of red flags that pop up and you're like,
Yeah.
whoa, like why is nobody thinking through this? Why are you just kind of, you know, gravitating towards it and quite happy with it? But yeah, could you tell us a bit about this place that Bets is invited to? Is it called Cairn?
It's called Khan,
Cairn.
yeah. And it's basically this like house. And I just like was really drawn to some of the kind of gothic tropes. So, like there's hidden kind of corridors and big meals and candlelit meals and this very kind of drawing on the gothic, but then also just like making it kind of weird. So like weird, like yeah, there's like a weirdness to it that you
Yeah.
feel like you're seeing it in a weird way. Yeah, it was really fun, really fun writing it. I think my first book was like my first book I really enjoyed setting as well because it was set in lots of different places
Hmm.
and I just like had like so much fun with that. And so this one, it was interesting setting it in one place and yeah, different. I definitely realize I'm drawn to like again and the thing I keep getting drawn to is like money. So
Yeah.
like what would something look like? And that's one the really again a really fun thing about writing. You can be like, what would this look like if it was had £1 million because
Yeah.
there's no like limits. You can do what you want. So I'm always drawn to like big expensive places that where something's kind of off, that where money is basically a bad thing and bad things are happening.
Like White
And
Lotus vibes.
yeah, White Lotus vibes. I think that's like become like quite popular now, this
Yeah.
kind of like the rich people doing bad things as a thing. But yeah, you're just drawn to what you're drawn to, aren't you?
Yeah,
So
absolutely. But I think what really fascinated me is the people going to this place,
mm,
they are willing to kind of accept any kind of treatment, any change in their routine.
yeah.
They're just like, do with me what you will. And
Yeah.
there's no kind of, I don't know, that they don't seem concerned. I think like whatever's going on with them outside of this place is so kind of
Yeah.
not unsettling, but they're so unhappy outside of this place
Yeah.
that they're just like willing for any sort of change, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah,
And
totally.
yeah, why do you think they respond in the way that they do in terms of just being like, yeah, do with me what you will?
Yeah. So, I mean, I was really like just sometimes I think you're just kind of you latch onto an idea, and I was just really taken by this thing of like of people in the real world, going to their GP and having these ailments that just
Mhm.
like are like not solvable by your GP. And I feel like that is such a common thing, especially among like, women that I know, where it's just like, yeah, you just gonna have to live with it.
Take
And
a paracetamol.
I've experienced that as well. And it's not necessarily the GP's fault. It's just that, some of these things I feel like are just like a response to like to life,
Yeah,
life being just hard
yeah.
and your body just responds to it in a sense. So and I wanted people to feel that like if you're stat desperate and
Hmm.
if you're in pain, because there's nothing, long-term physical pain, which I've experienced, it just colors everything else in your life.
Yeah,
You're unable to see anything else. You're just in this kind of ball of pain. And I think people who've experienced that maybe will understand, you are willing to do anything. You're just like, I will, do anything to, go back to like a pain-free life.
yeah,
So yeah, that was the kind of inspiration in with that.
absolutely.
So hopefully some people can empathize or maybe not. And some people will say, God, why are they staying there? But I
I
don't know.
mean, there were elements of it where, like, the fact that it was free, I'd be skeptical immediately because
Yeah.
I'm like, why is this free?
Nothing's free.
What's the
Yeah,
catch here?
totally,
But
totally.
but the like spreads that they're given and they're given all these cocktails and like that
Yeah.
all sounds very appealing. So you can kind of see
Yeah.
that how you can get drawn in by that. And also if
Yeah.
you're having sleep issues as well, like Betsy is, if you start sleeping having a better sort of sleep schedule, then
Yeah.
I don't know, it is appealing to just kind of stay in that environment.
Yeah.
Why would you want to leave? Get an
Yeah. And like
avocado and smoked salmon for your
yeah.
breakfast. Like what?
Totally. And I think it's that weird thing of like, I don't know if you've had this of when you like go back to your parents, even as like a grown up, and you like revert to being a child, basically. That thing of
Yeah,
like they're just like they have responsibilities in the outside, but they just absolutely instantly revert to basically being children and being
yeah,
very childish. And as I was writing them, I was like, they're so annoying because they're just like they're behaving like children because they're being treated like children and just
yeah.
everything's being done for them, which I found quite interesting.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
I do have a quote from Harry.
All right.
This isn't going to spoil anything. It's not going to spoil anything. Wait, sorry, it's not from Harry. It's about
Yeah.
Harry.
Yeah.
And it's quite early on in the book, but it's to do with Christmas.
Oh
And
yeah.
I love seeing how people respond to festivities because I think it tells you so much about a
Yeah.
person.
It really does, doesn't
Now, this
it?
quote, you write, he was one of those people who really, really liked Christmas. For me, it was something to get through as opposed to something enjoyable. And yeah, like I said, I think you can learn so much about a person. Where do you sit on the
Yeah.
Christmas
Oh God.
spectrum?
I am like not a Christmas person. I don't mind
Really?
Christmas. I'm just like not super into it. I'm just like, day like every other day. I like it. I just find it quite like there's a lot going on. There's a lot of
Yes.
expectation, a bit like a wedding.
Yes. It's
But
quite
now I've got,
overwhelming.
yeah, this year I'm gonna have a 2-year-old, so I think he'll like be like he'll be more into Christmas
Yeah.
and he'll know what's going on. So
That'll be so
I think if I
nice.
see it through through like a child's eyes, I think I'll get
Yeah.
more into it. But I am firmly on Betsy's side in that I'm not a Christmas person. Like,
No, it's so interesting because I think, like you said, there's so much expectation and pressure placed on
mm,
it.
yeah,
And I think, like having to get everyone presents and are you getting somebody the same amount of
yeah,
presents that they've got you? Like,
yeah,
are they, it's just such a, I don't know, it's overwhelming. And then, if people are having a drink and if
yeah,
there's any kind of tension in the family or if somebody's
totally.
cooking and they're under pressure and
Yeah,
anything can kind of happen. And it's a day
yeah,
where, like, if you get irritated like you would on a normal day, you can't just go off and have a breather because it's like, well, it's Christmas and you're going to ruin that for
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah,
But I
it's
think,
like the collective sense of everyone being responsible for everyone having a great Christmas.
yes.
And I really find the like week between Christmas and New Year just like tiresome as
Yeah.
well. So yeah, I like really like Halloween and I really like bonfire night. So I'm like more into like Halloween and bonfire night.
I
Like
love
they're more
that.
up my street.
No, I absolutely love that. My friend that I was telling you about before, Emma, she is also a big Halloween fan, and
Mm,
I've never really celebrated Halloween apart from obviously trick-or-treating when I was younger, but we got matching pajamas last Halloween. It was
love it.
Jack, what's he called? Jack something.
Oh, I
Nightmare
don't
Before
know.
Christmas, that's the
Oh
one.
right, okay.
But we got matching pajamas with him on, and we watched a couple
Amazing.
of Halloween films, and
Yes,
that
so
was a
I'm like a
vibe. It was
massive,
nice.
yeah, I'm a massive like that's another sort of situation. I'm a massive horror film fan. So like often when I'm writing, I'm like thinking of like, like of it as a horror film basically because I love horror films.
What are your faves?
Oh God, I mean, I just like The Ring. Like The Ring like scared me so much when I saw it.
When I was younger and I
And
watched that, I was so
yeah, it
terrified.
was so
Yeah,
scary. I loved it. And there's been some like really cool, weird ones recently, like Cam. I don't know if you've seen Cam on Netflix. So
don't
weird.
know if I have.
Yeah, but I mean, just like anything. I watched a really good one recently that I loved called Blink Twice or Don't Blink Twice.
Yes,
Have you seen it?
with Zoe
With
Kravitz.
yeah,
So good,
so
so
good. And
good.
that is
Yeah,
another example of just like an absolute banging twist. Like the
yeah,
twist is so good.
yeah.
So yeah, me and my husband loved that film. I was like actually pleasantly surprised. I went into it and I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm 100% going to be into it. And I adored it. So
It's
um
again people with money, idyllic setting. What
yeah,
could
but
go wrong?
it's just
Everything.
the twists are done really well in
Yeah.
that. As in like she could have kind of because she directs it, doesn't she? She could have I
Yes.
feel like she could have not yeah done it in a way that was really obvious but I won't say any more but yeah I just felt it was really cleverly done
So
so
good.
yeah I loved that.
It's so, so good. Oh my gosh. You did say before that you are working on a third book. So
Yeah, I've
what can you tell us
not
about that?
not sold it yet, but basically, I don't feel like I can talk about it. I'm really inspired by this idea came about from the author Nikki French,
Amazing.
who I don't know if you've read much Nikki French, but I read quite a few of the books before realizing it was a husband-wife team, and they write like a chapter about. So he
Oh
writes
my
chapter,
God.
chapter. I have been like obsessed with this idea ever since I heard that they write like this because the books feel so coherent and they don't feel in any way disjointed. And I was like, that
No.
is so cool. So I've been writing a thriller that's based on a husband-wife writer team, and they write together, and then she reads a chapter, and someone dies in it, and then someone actually dies. So it's yeah, it's kind of like a fun, like it's probably more of a straight up, thriller as opposed to it's a bit different to the first two. I'm not quite sure how to describe them, but
Amazing.
they're a bit weird, and this one's a bit less weird, maybe. So
You'll put your sprinkle of weird in there somewhere, I'm
yeah, I've always
sure.
sprinkling a word of it. Yeah. But yeah, really enjoying writing it. So that's always a good sign.
Amazing. I love that. I can't wait
Yeah.
to read that.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
I do love to end by asking for a recommendation, and you have given
Ooh.
us lots of great recommendations. So I don't know if
Okay.
you've got any left. But if not, you have touched on certain writers that you really love. So maybe if you
Yeah.
want to mention a couple of books that you've loved or any favorite books, TV, film,
Yeah.
anything like that that you
I
want to
mean,
mention.
I am always like surprised when I read something again. So I read The Ministry of Time, I think it's
Yes.
called, like a few weeks ago. Just bought it on those. I had a long train ride and bought it to read in the train. And yeah, I just thought it was done so well, like in terms of the characters. It was like the characters were just so good. And it has some like real laugh out. It's really funny with stuff like that. I think writing humor is really hard. I think
Hmm.
God, again, humor's so subjective, but that book had a few like proper laugh out loud lines,
Yeah.
which I loved. And I'm just gonna put I'm like a big Kindle fan, so I read like everything on my Kindle.
Oh,
Like
really?
yeah. Oh, I read The Winner by Teddy Wayne, which I'd
I haven't
really
heard of this.
recommend. It's quite an unusual thriller, I'd say. He wrote another book. He's American. He wrote another book that I liked. I think that was maybe called it's called Loner. I can't remember. But anyway, this is not his debut, and it's very money, very like rich money on an island in like Nantucket, kind of. woman dies. Very cool, very, very enjoyable. What else have I read recently? I read Our Wives Under the Sea,
So good.
which, yeah, I'd heard amazing things about and loved that. Loved like the prose was gorgeous. So yeah, I've read, yeah, lots of good things. But
You've given us so many good recommendations.
there's so many good things out there. I just feel like I'm constantly reading books where I'm like, this is so cool. So I'm really, what else am I mean, there's a lot coming out this year as well. I'm excited for. I'm really excited for the Mona Howard follow up to Bunny, which comes out in September, I think. So very excited for that.
I haven't actually read Bunny. I've heard
Oh,
loads of stuff
it's
about,
so
yeah,
good. Yeah,
I
I'm
need
like
to
a
get to it.
massive Bunny fan. Like occasionally people will say like, "Oh, like this book reminds me of Bunny about things you tell friends," and I'm like, that is like the biggest compliment like I could ever receive because I am obsessed with Bunny. So
I love that.
it feels if anyone ever says that, I'm like, "Oh my God, you've like made my life."
Oh, I need to read
So
this now.
it's so good. So
Thank you
yeah.
so much for all of your recommendations throughout the episode. I've loved chatting to you and I
Thank you
really
so much
love
for
this
having
book. No,
me. Oh,
thank you for
thank
coming
you.
on.
It's been so fun.
I'm so glad. Where can the listeners find you online, if anywhere?
Yeah, so I've got a website. I think it's heatherdarwent.com, and then on Instagram, hdarwent. That's about it.
Amazing.
Not too
And
regular on Twitter or anything.
no, I mean, who wants to be at this point? But anyway, for our listeners, A Sharp Scratch is out now. You can buy it wherever you get your books. And you can also get copies of Things We Do to Our Friends. I will be popping links in the show notes for both of those. So please do grab yourselves a copy. And if you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe as it helps to boost us in the charts. And if you want to give us a follow, you can do so at A Pair of Bookends Pod on Instagram and at A Pair of Bookends on Twitter and TikTok. Go give Heather a follow and go read this book. Okay, thanks so much for listening. Goodbye.